Hey guys, welcome to Spirit Pig. This is the show that explores how to live a fulfilled life. I'm Duncan CJ, and today I'm talking to Antonio Morenés. Was that a good pronunciation?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, yeah.
I've been so excited about this interview because Antonio has lived an absolutely extraordinary and fascinating life. He's a Spanish poet and has this just amazing energy about him, and you seem someone like who is just truly happy. So I thought, what a better person to get on the show. Antonio, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Well, you haven't seen me before I take my morning time coffee. I don't seem so happy then.
Did
Yeah.
you I mean, I just mentioned there that you like poetry and writing. That's sort of your passion, and you. This is what you do. Like you kind of live and breathe like your passion. Did you, when leaving school, did you always know this is what you wanted to do, or has it become this sort of thing that's just adapted over time?
No, I guess I always wanted to do it, but it just seemed like a faraway, distant, unachievable dream somehow. And slowly, just it became more and more real, and more real, and more real, and it still is becoming more real every day. So yeah, it's a long-term thing. Yeah.
Because I did some digging up, and I was asking Sophie, your girlfriend, and some other people, and some of the stories, because I know that you've got some just crazy stories. But one thing which I really want to know is actually we'll go back actually before we get to that. Like, so you left school. Like, give me sort of chronologically, like after leaving school, what happened? Because you went to a school up in north of England, up in Yorkshire. Nice good school. And when you left, did you try and get into a job straight away, or did you immediately go off traveling and start to go and explore the world?
Well, when I left, I wanted to take a gap year, which I was very inspired by all my British friends taking them. But my father didn't believe in gap years, and he thought that I should study. So I wanted to study philosophy. Then he said, no, you should study something that's useful. So I ended up studying economics, and I lasted like 3 months, basically. And after 3 months, I went traveling, and yeah, I went to work in the Canary Islands and fishing, and spent 6 months there. Then I thought I'd give studying a go again, but lasted only a year and a half. And then I went traveling, and I spent 8 years traveling on the road.
8 years.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the thing was that it was a thing that came since I was a little boy. I was always told how things were, and but I wanted to see for myself, and I was always questioning. I was very much one of those persons that always asked the question why. And I was never satisfied with the answer unless I arrived to it by myself. So I couldn't just sit and do what I was told, because I felt like that they told me the world is like that. Well, I want to see it for myself. So there was a big drive inside me to leave, and eventually I just left.
God, because I mean, one story which, like I mean, so we're touching a few of them, but India. So you lived in a tree house, is that correct?
Yeah, I lived in a tree house in India. Well, yeah, it was a cliff in Gokarna, which is in Karnataka, sort of north of Kerala, and it was a cliff, and it had two sort of platforms, and on top there were two trees that would give shade. So it wasn't like we called it a tree house, but I mean the trees were more like the roof of the house, and the house wasn't. There was no house. There were no walls. So yeah, it was a beautiful place.
And then I like this idea of because Sophie was telling me how you became almost infamous out there. That you met a traveller, and he told you about this, apparently this crazy naked Westerner. Apparently
Yeah.
this there's this idea that he said there's some naked Westerner living in a tree up in India, and you actually heard this story, actually them talking about yourself.
It was worse, because he said I heard stories about a crazy naked Spaniard, big Spaniard, a giant or something, and obviously because he's like Chinese tales, it just got bigger and bigger. So the stories, it was weird because that was in the southwest, and this conversation I had in Calcutta,
Yeah.
which is in the east, so the other side of India. It was very strange, yeah. But it was a good time. It was a fun time. We were young, and we felt like we were real pirates, and we live our life in a very sort of dangerous and free way, and it was a fun time. Not very sort of productive or creative, but good for the rebellious young soul.
What
Made a
kind
lot of
of
mistake.
what kind of
Yeah.
what kind of what kind of things did these experiences teach you? Like, did you? Because a lot of people say that they learn more from traveling than they did in all their time in studying and working in books. Like, did you learn a lot about yourself through like just this complete freedom?
Yeah, I learned from both. I think my thing was, as I said, I couldn't just give in to people telling me what the world was about, what life was about. I had to make it for myself. So I felt that I needed to break free. And once I broke totally free, and I literally was free of everything, and then I could come back to the world, but come back on my own terms. So I learned a lot traveling through people that I met, through basically just taking myself into very far away, distant lands and spaces emotionally, or spaces of the mind as well. And then I learned a lot by coming back into society again, and feeling sort of like I had a legitimacy to come back because I was choosing to. I wasn't made to follow a certain path. Yeah.
And then this one thing which, because you kind of chose to be sort of voluntary like homelessness, where you'd almost go from temple to temple. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, also in Europe, just it was if you wanted to be free from everything and get away from society and get away from like where you come from and basically just be a first name with no surname. And so for this, I just learned to live without money, and it's really good. So if I was in Europe, I learned how to feed myself from the leftovers of Europe, because there's so many leftovers. There's such an opulence in the society and so many food being thrown away and etc. And when I was in India, I got a lot of food from charity from people. And most temples, they give one meal a day for everyone. And India may be a poor country, but no one really dies of starvation. So I also taught myself to go many days without eating. So yeah.
How many days?
Well, I mean, when I'm doing a proper fast, I can do 15 days. But back in those days when I was traveling, I could sort of like have a good meal and then go sort of 2-3 days without feeling hungry and until I ate again. It's good.
Was that 15? As in, so you drink water and stuff, but you'll go 15 days with absolutely no food.
No food, yeah.
How?
Well, I guess it's just something you learn and you control your mind, but also your body learns about it. In one of my journeys, I arrived in Berlin, and it was one of those times when I had no money, and I hitchhiked, and this girl picked me up, and eventually we fell in love, and it's a whole different story. But we arrived, I wasn't even going to Berlin, but she was from Berlin, and I ended up living in Berlin, and I met all these friends of hers, and a lot of them were into healing, and one of them especially, a very good friend of mine now, he was a nutritionist, and he's a fasting guru type of, so he taught me how to fast. And so up until then, I was sort of, I didn't eat because I didn't have any money. And I just thought, okay, don't eat about it. But then with him, I learned to properly fast. So since then, that was 2006, I do 2 fasts a year, one in the spring and one in autumn.
Each time, 15 days.
Depends, because it's quite hard to find the space, It depends on you can't be social, you can't be. So when I was living in Spain, in Salamanca, it's a very remote area, it's very easy. So I would do 15 days, no problem. Here in London, it's harder because you're so isolated, and you can't really do much. Well, I mean, you can do things, you're not social. It's a time that you want to have to invest in yourself and be alone and with yourself. And if you're in a city of 12 million people, it's quite hard. But yeah, normally I try to do 15. Yeah.
I thought up until now. I mean, I thought you die after like 10 days. God, 15 as in.
No way. You can go a long time. I think
you like David Blaine,
who've done 40 days.
40.
Yeah, 40. Yeah.
But puts me to shame. I get after about 5 hours without eating, I start getting like nervous.
Yeah. Well, it depends what kind of metabolism you have and stuff. And yeah.
So is it literally? I mean, it's all. Is it mind over matter? Is it like it's all about actually just training? Is the mind? Is it much more the mind than the body? Like your body can actually survive. It's more about training your mind actually that you don't need it.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, how what you could actually do with your mind if you're more disciplined. Because over the years, so if I started 2006, now it's 2015, it's a lot of, I've done maybe 20, 30 fasts, and I've got to a point where from day one, my body basically knows that I'm fasting, and my brain too, and then I get onto fasting mode. And then sometimes, because the days you don't spend time cooking or digesting, so the days sort of, they are longer, they feel longer, they stretch. So sometimes when you've got some dead time, you think, okay, now I'm going to think about food. And then you start thinking about food and you basically eat with your mind, and you think about what you're going to cook and what this texture will be like and what it will smell and how it will smell when it's in the oven and when you take it out and then how will you serve it on the plate. And you actually, with your mind, you sort of eat it and then you think, okay, enough, and then you stop thinking about it. And it's almost like you're enjoying eating without eating. See what I mean? So it's all the mind has so much power over the body. But I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, I can only do it with fasting. I can't do it with other things. Yeah. Yeah.
Has this taught you? I don't know. Has it changed your sort of idea or perception of like what's really truly important? Like, do you think before you did either like the traveling, the fasting, the just going off and exploring and like seeing stuff for yourself, did you have like a different idea of like what was important? And has this kind of changed has that kind of destroyed those paradigms and actually made you realize what's really important?
Well, not really. I mean, on a way, it's like I wanted to have sort of like I add to the picture. That's what. So I had when I was younger, I had an intuition, and that's the way I understand it. It was a very vague intuition, and the more I go forward in life, and the more I carry on going down my path, then this intuition takes more shape and it gets more detailed, and there is more textures, more smells that come out of it. So the idea gets more and more clear, slowly, slowly, slowly. And if I'm, working well and I'm following what I want to do, then I add more to this, great picture, which is endless. I think it could never be. So it's not so much that I've been breaking paradigms. I was always sort of like on a wave, and when I was a child, I was proud. My father always told me, "Look, why do you always have to do it your way? You're so fucking annoying, always your way." So I've been following this way because I felt it was right, and I might still be wrong, but at the same time, it gets more clear, more it, more adds up to it, there are more layers, etc.
So would you say that would you say that's gut, that's instinct, kind of intuition? Is that what you've been following this whole time?
I think it's a mixture of both, and this is a lot what I work about, and this is also why I like poetry so much, because I think it's a mixture between reason and intuition and passion and emotion, and I believe that if you want to understand something, then it's like building a table. You want to build a table, you need a lot of tools. So you have a toolbox, and you don't just use one tool. And this was one of the things that got me down my path, is that I felt that people only used one tool in order to understand the world, which is mainly reason and science. And I thought there have to be other tools, just like if you're building a table, you have a hammer, you have screws, you have a chisel, you have a sandpaper. We were sanding the other day, yeah, and you need all these things in order to build a beautiful table. So we have all these things that we have access to, but that I felt back then, not so much now, that people were just pushing aside. And now I believe that you have to integrate them. So there's a place for reason, there's a place for intuition, there's a place for emotion, there's a place for passion. And sometimes this is what I call poetic intelligence. When you're writing and when it's working, all of those come together into the perfect verse. Yeah.
So that would you say that like writing and creating poetry, like and using that as your sort of, I know, your vehicle, your whatever, has that sort of changed the world has that sort of changed the way you see and interact with the world? I mean, are you constantly now like looking around being inspired by a thing? Do you feel like you kind of, because everything is inspiration around you, does that kind of change the way you kind of experience life? Or is that am I being is that a bit romantic kind of thinking that? Or
no, in a way, I think I think it's all about conversation, and we get given a lot of input from the world, and we get given a lot of but there's always, we process it and then we do something with it. Everyone, absolutely everyone. And then what I believe is that there is a hidden truth that is an absolute truth, but we don't have an access to. And then we just need to have a conversation with it. And every time we have a conversation with it, we're giving it sense. and we're sort of circling it. And then, so with poetry or with interaction, with conversation, we're doing that now. We're just making sense. We're making sense. We're constantly making sense out of everything that's around us. And I find that this is the same for science as it is for anything else. For poetry, for philosophy, but as you say, my vehicle, it's poetry, and it definitely gives shape to my world, and the more, and you through your conversations with other people, that gives shape to your world, and slowly we'll understand. And if we share this, which is like what you're doing with your platform and your website, then we can have a better understanding and make some sense of this madness. Yeah.
Do you feel like do you create, I mean, do you think, I mean, was it about things like legacy, and you just said there, like what you want to put out to the world? I mean, are you thinking sort of legacy and what you want to create behind, or is it just each day as it comes?
Well, I mean, obviously, I try to be each day as it comes, but then if I look back and I see my body of work, I feel happy that I've gone all this way, and I would like to leave some legacy, but I'm not obsessed by it as much as my, I don't know, other friends, poet friends that I have in general, or poets in general, they're all about, I want my verses to be written in marble and all that. And I'm not so fast about that, I want to have my say. In this conversation and in this making sense, and it all goes back to what I was telling you before, of people not just making me believe certain dogmas about what the world is about, and especially when we all sometimes wonder, why is the world so, why are there so many things going wrong, or I'm sure we can make it work better. So I just want to have my say on how the things should go.
One thing I quite liked, which we were talking about at Easter, was this idea of whether you're talking to like 1,000 people, or like 1,000,000 people, or even if you're just having a conversation, that one-to-one person, you're just sitting down, you're having a coffee, you're having a drink, but even that interaction then and there, like, is real, and that's something special. And it's almost like that's just as valuable as whether you're it's one to thousands and thousands. I mean, have you always had this sort of love of just people and actually just conversations? Has that always been sort of in you?
But this has been a recent understanding. I think we live in a post-romantic era, and there's a lot of the romantic ideals that are very much inside our society and our understanding. And with the romantics, it's all about taking it to the infinite and looking up, and always looking at what you're saying at the macro scale, and changing the world through art and all that. And I did sort of believe in that a little bit before, but more and more I move away from that, and I realize that the micro scale, which is what we're talking, is just as important as the macro scale, And you don't have to look at things, because if you see the world and the universe and everything as an organism that is constantly changing and constantly evolving, which it is, it's constantly expanding, and it's never still, and it will never be the same. And then every little bit that you do affects, the grand scheme of things. So every conversation, every little thing that happens is as relevant as the big things, Yeah. And so also this gives you a great peace of mind, because just the fact that you and I are having a beautiful conversation, then this is changing. This is making the evolution go in a certain place or another, and you don't have to sort of like this romantic idea of all the genius concentrated in one man. I think it's more about many people having good conversations, and not such intensity of, like Beethoven and the ninth, like da da da, or the fifth, and all this great creative genius going through him. No, it's just, you, me, cup of tea, maybe some scones.
You've been in England too long. You like scones now?
Well, yeah, I do like them. Yeah. I prefer pork pies.
Talk to me about Omar. Sophie was telling me, she goes, when you were in the Middle East and North Africa, and you gave up alcohol and women and called yourself Omar.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's kind of like So yeah, sounds a bit weird when you say it like that, but it's more or less very accurate. So basically, I was very because I'm from Spain, and obviously we have all these Islamic influence. I was very interested in my roots, you know. And when I went traveling, so I spent a long time traveling, 8 years, but I seem to always spend my time in the same places. So in between Spain and India, and everything that's in between. So Europe, the Middle East, etc. And you know, when I learn, traveling is like anything else. You know, you get better at it the more you do it. So you know, when I arrived in the Middle East, I was very very curious about Islam, and I really wanted to give it a go. You know, so I started reading a lot. I read the Quran, and then I read. I met a very good Islamic professor in Sevilla, and he gave me some of his books, which are really good. And then I went to a tailor in Aleppo, made myself this Arabic dress, you know, like a jilabay. And then slowly I started calling myself Omar instead of Antonio. And then, I would go to the mosque and I would live basically like a Muslim. And I did it, you know, it was part of my traveling. I really wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And I did it for about 7 months, was the longest period. And it was a great experience, really. And also I felt like Islam was a very relevant sort of topic in the world. And I wanted to see what it was all about, you know.
I like that because I mean, often when people go traveling, you know, they might stick to the tourist routes or you know go to whatever it says in the the Lonely Planet guidebook. But when you go somewhere, do you like to submerge yourself with the customs, the culture, and actually become it?
Yeah, and it happens really naturally. And even if I'm traveling, for example, in the Spanish-speaking world or within Spain, or sometimes my accent changes, so I find myself like speaking with a local accent, and and I don't know, I developed this sort of instinct or a nose, I call it, you know, that I would arrive in a city even if I don't know it, and then somehow start walking and follow my nose, and I would end up always meeting like amazing characters and beautiful people and very fast within the cities, you know. So that was great. Yeah, I think yes, as I say, it's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it, you know. And that was one of my most beautiful journeys, the Oma days. It's so funny. I would meet people and then they'd be like, I'd say, before I was Antonio. Dirty Christian, drinking wine, eating pig. Now I embrace two faiths of Islam, and my name is Omar. And then everyone like greeted me with hugs and kisses, you know. At the time, I did believe it, you know. I was very, very close to staying, but there were a few things that pushed me away in Syria. Yeah.
I love that. I love that idea because of just following your nose. What's that called? Is that like synchronicity or no? What is it? Was it synchronicity? Because sometimes it's really interesting. I've been trying to do it recently, when I'll walk the streets in London, and I would just almost. It sounds weird, but I mean, I would just try and feel my way around the streets. I mean, I would just purely like come to a crossroads and then be like, left, and then suddenly go, oh, right, and then I always end up discovering amazing places, seeing things which I've never seen before. Suddenly you're down these little, alleyways, or you're suddenly down a cool muse, and you discover a new cafe, or like just all these amazing things, and purely just from feeling your way through the streets. And I love that idea, just following your nose.
Yeah, it's great. And now you mentioned synchronicity, and it's a concept that I'm obsessed with at the moment. And it's when you allow yourself, I feel that we are subject to existence and we are subject to the world, you know. But when you feel good within yourself and you're in your center, and then you get undressed and you're naked and exposed, and all of this touches you, then it creates a vibration, and then this vibration is your own music, you know. And then when you get into your own music and it's pure, then your own music is in tune with the rest of the music of the world, and then is when this magic happens, the synchronicity, when you find all this or the other, or etc. You know, it's like there's a big jam session, you know, and then you just go in with your instrument and you fit into the jam session. You see what I mean? And that's when you're traveling, it's very easy sometimes.
Are you still naked at this stage? Have you put on clothes?
Well, I depends on the day, but I'm pretty much always naked. Yeah, I'm all for nakedness. Yeah.
And just a couple of speed round questions to finish up. What does a fulfilled life mean to you?
A fulfilled life means basically being true to yourself, and being happy with your work and with what you're doing, and being free and rebellious, and just not compromising, and then that I think those are the things that will make everything else come about, like love or good friendships, or if you're true to yourself, then you will find other people. You create a certain magnetism or a gravity that will bring other good people and good things into your life. Yeah,
I love that idea.
So know thyself, maybe.
Know thyself. What is one thing all our listeners can do today that will have a massive positive effect on their lives?
We could go into this, know thyself. Yeah, maybe. So learn to know who you are really and what you can give, and learn to be pure in that way that when you vibrate, you create music that's in tune, instead of, and being in control of your life, rather than just letting life and existence push you around, and create bad vibrations that, don't fit in the big jam of life. Sorry about all the music analogies.
I like the jam of life. I'm going to start using it. And are there any books or resources which have changed or had a big impact on you?
Many. And but I guess I will have to go with Cultural Pride, and then I have to say El Quijote. Don Quixote.
Cultural Pride by Don.
No. My Cultural Pride, Don Quixote, or from Cervantes. It's Don Quixote or whatever. I never know how to pronounce it in English. It's the great Spanish novel. It was written in 1605, and it's got everything in it. It's about this man. You've never heard of it?
No. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, it's you have to get a translation that is nowadays translation. Don't get one of those sort of pedantic old translations. Get a recent one, and it's about a man who reads a lot of books, and he basically goes mad. And this is after the end of the golden era, and so he goes outside his house. He's sort of like a noble, but not really a noble, and he thinks he's a knight, So he gets on this really, really old horse, and with very old, bad weapons, and he goes to save the world, basically. And it's wonderful.
Do you see yourself? Were you living precariously through this guy?
Yeah, basically, because what he says is live your dream, even if people think you're mad. Just go out and live your dream, and fight for your ideas, and eventually your ideas will become true, even if people laugh at you, even if you look ridiculous. And it's just wonderful. It's really, really wonderful.
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to read that one. And last but not least, how can people stay in touch, read your poetry, find out more about you?
I've got a blog, but in Spanish, most of it. I've got a little bit in English, and I'm about to publish my first poetry book, also in Spanish, even though it has a few words and a few poems in English. And so, yeah,
amazing. I'll point them. I'm going to get that off you, and so we can put that at the end of this interview. Okay, great. Yeah, Antonio, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. No. I like your chair as well. You slide low and low and lower down the chair. You're so low, you almost... I don't fit in the camera, you see. Yeah. Almost horizontal. Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. No, thank you, Duncan. It's been really good fun. We'll catch up soon. See you later. Bye. Yeah, bye.